Hello, and welcome to Instructional Design from the Ground Up. Your home if you're an instructional designer, subject matter expert, teacher, trainer, manager of the process, or if you're just lonely and need somebody to talk to. That's who we are here on this channel. And we've got such an incredible show. You're just going to have more fun. And if you're live with us, we expect you to jump in and chat. If you don't, we'll find you. So I would suggest that you participate tonight. And Denise, we've got such a terrific show. This is just look at these two folks.
I know.
They're so cool.
Yes, we're so excited to have them. And let me introduce them to you. We have Kevin King. Kevin King was a maintainer at Norfolk Southern before moving to the Valley Transit Authority in Santa Clara, VTA, as a maintainer, and then eventually to the role of supervisor 3 years ago. He works with Julie, our next guest, as a subject matter expert. And Julie, you may notice her from a previous episode that we had with her talking about subject matter experts. Julie is here again, and she has over a decade experience of instructional systems design. She holds a master's level certificate. She also has a master's in urban planning and a bachelor's degree in human geography. She's been employed at nonprofits for all of her professional career and was driven to join the International Transportation Learning Center in 2008 as a program director of instructional design because of her passion around equality and the role mobility plays. Welcome to the podcast, this episode, this live session, where we're going to talk about subject matter experts and the relationship that a subject matter expert has with an instructional designer.
So, Julie, Kevin, by gosh, Kevin, I'm so happy that you're here. I have heard about you, and now it's an incredible honor to be able to meet you and to have you on here. Of course, Julie and I go back somewhere before electricity, and we've been doing this a while. And I don't know how many cities we've worked with subject matter experts in, but we got a pretty good geography lesson there. So, Julie and Kevin, I'm going to turn it over to you. We're going to get out of the way here because I know you have a presentation you want to do. And then we're all going to come back together and chit chat. We want you all to jump in. If you have questions or comments, post them and we will get to them. Denise is behind the board tonight and she will make sure everybody is recognized so we get to all those questions.
Absolutely.
Great. Yeah, thank you. You can hand it on over, Denise, whenever.
Okay, here we go.
So, let's see. Is that showing there now?
Absolutely.
Great. Okay, so yeah, thanks for having me back. It was really great talking with you guys a couple months ago. And, I love, Chuck, that you had the idea of actually bringing in a subject matter expert to see their perspective on what we do, because I think it's really valuable, of course. And also, Kevin and I, did a little bit of pre-discussion here, and I've been working with him for definitely less than a year. Has it been like 6 months, Kevin? Something like that.
I think so. Yeah, close to that.
Yeah. So, I thought he'd be a good one to loop in here because super engaged, super smart, and new to this, so it has that lens on things. But in just our discussions, I've learned quite a bit about what value we can, as instructional designers, bring to this situation and make the process better, the whole experience better on the subject matter expert side. So thank you for letting us come on here and share some of that. I wanted to I'm not going to take much time at all, but just like a couple minutes to kind of just give context of the world and the projects Kevin and I work in together. And we work together as part of a project called a Signals Maintainer National Training Consortium. And the goal of that is to create this nationally applicable training program. And all those words are very intentional there, that we're working together to create a training program that's going to work at 16 different transit agencies across the United States. So that's what all these different arrows feeding into that are. There's 6 here, but like I said, it's 16 locations. And Kevin comes from one of those locations, San Jose, VTA in California. And it can be a real challenge to come up with a program that's applicable to everybody and works for everybody. Each of those locations is contributing in a number of ways monetarily so that we have the funds to staff the project and giving resources. But really, the most important thing is that subject matter expertise from people like Kevin. So, and just wanted to give a little context as far as the SMEs and the consortium in this project, that I've encountered other situations where SMEs are like actually compensated for their time. There might be a contract that you work with me, you get me this information, and then we write you a check. Because of the model we're using here, the time that all the SMEs spend is part of their normal job responsibilities and well, they're not extra compensation for sure, but it has to fit in line with the other responsibilities they have. So I just want to kind of give that back before we just start a casual conversation here about that. Motivation is always key, but I think that given that it's within these parameters, I think it's even more important to make sure that that relationship is strong and works on the subject matter experts side of this too. So that was all of the context there. Denise, you can hide those slides now. We can just chat.
So, Kevin, what's it like to be a subject matter expert?
It's definitely a new experience.
Yeah.
Most of us coming from, whether you've been a maintainer or in signal construction or just a technician or even supervisors, you don't normally have much hand in the training in terms of what it will be. You get told, okay, hey, you have to train someone on X, Y, or Z. Here it goes. And we have a training department here, but it's my first time being a part of, any type of organization where we actually design the training that you will see.
And it's really incredible because I was around the beginning of signals. I mean, this has been on the table for a long time. And, the quality of people that come in and act in your role as a subject matter expert, it always takes my breath away. And these are such incredibly engaged and motivated and talented people. And this is all about, well, first of all, education and training, but it's also about making sure we have a safe working environment, making sure that everything we do professionally is done correctly and to the best of our ability. And all of these things roll into this together. And what did you feel like the first time you sat down in one of these committee meetings? Was it like, I'm so glad to be here, or I wish I was anywhere else?
Well, I was happy to be there because I was actually supposed to go to one previously. Whenever you guys were in Philadelphia, I was supposed to go to that, I believe. And it just didn't happen for other reasons internally. And so when I finally got to go, like, okay, we're going again. Okay, next time you're actually going to go. We're not going to wait to the last minute and tell you, no, it's not happening. And this time they were like, it's in Buffalo. I'm like, well, it's wintertime and it's in Buffalo. I don't like the cold. Like, okay, but you know what? It's fine. Cool. But no, it was actually much, much better than what I could have imagined it would have been. Had a great time. Yeah. Met a bunch of great people. And I don't know what I thought it was going to be, but I definitely enjoyed it.
Well, one thing I know for sure, you're with a bunch of professionals. I mean, Julie in transportation, they've been doing this a long time, and they do it internally, which a lot of organizations don't. So all the talent resides within their framework. And, I wish I could have been there. It would have been great to be part of that group, see all of you working together. But Julie, I know, I mean, every time you have a meeting, I used to just smile and I couldn't wait to get in there. And it was as much about being part of that social environment and feeling part of a large group of professionals that really knew what they were doing. And you always felt good about that. And the work that followed just seemed to be so natural.
Mm-hmm. And I think we definitely have been lucky in the folks that have been part of the group as subject matter experts. I do want to, I'm like gonna stretch behind me and see, but no, I guess it's not within reach. The SME from the Ground Up book that you like in couple of years ago, we were actually using, I think you have like a suggestion of if you're actually assigning SMEs, what sort of qualities you might want to look for, because it is a teamwork sort of mentality. There's a whole list of them, but for a while when agencies would sign up, we'd say, send your brightest and best. It'd be great if they also have these qualities, but it really just recently has been luck of the draw. But also it's just, there's really not room for ego in these rooms. Like, so if you're that sort of person, like, which I've encountered maybe twice in the 13 years I've been doing this stuff, it just doesn't work out. But like, I mean, one of the reasons I asked Kevin to be on here is just, I mean, gosh, maybe halfway through day one, it seemed like you'd been there for 4 years, like it's just natural. So
Well, what is it like, Kevin? What is it like the first day that you were there? Maybe you had never been a subject matter expert before, at least in this case. What was that like? What was the day in the life of that? If somebody was curious about what an SME does.
I would imagine, I don't want to sound arrogant when I say this, the only reason I would say I was not intimidated is because I think most guys that work in this field for long enough, you feel confident being able to answer questions if somebody asks you questions about technical questions. So as long as it's that, okay, there's no issue with us answering a question or having a conversation. If it goes into something you don't know, okay, well, maybe now you start to lose confidence. But generally speaking, it was kind of just wondering, okay, how will this actually go? What is our responsibilities going to be? Do we have to, I don't know, actually do some kind of test? Like what will it be? And so there was a little bit of apprehension from that aspect of wondering what we would actually be doing. But once it started, I mean, it was just like having a group setting in a classroom with a bunch of friends almost.
So, that's the way it should be. And I know Julie spends a heck of a lot of time making sure that environment's created and that everybody feels like they're part of this family and you're just coming to a homecoming. Essentially, you're not being put on the spot or expected to do anything that isn't natural or within your abilities. And to be able to sit back sometimes and just be able to be a professional and not worry about the rest of the stuff that goes on. And that's one thing that I noticed early on was the more I could just be me, the more I could just share my knowledge and my experience, the more comfortable I felt being a subject matter expert.
Right.
And the more that I felt like I contributed because it wasn't an effort. The participation was not anything challenging. It was just me being recognized for the fact that I had something to offer to this. And Kevin, I don't know about you, but that always made me, I kind of sat up a little taller and, felt a little different about myself after that too.
Yeah, it does it gives you a certain sense of pride, especially coming from working in the field. For a lot of maintainers, you work alone most of the time. And I was telling Julie that before, that like having a group setting, you often are only doing that at a safety meeting or potentially at dinner if you guys get together. And so in that setting, having a bunch of guys get together and be able to share stories and kind of share information and realize like, hey, like we're all on par together. It has creates like an environment where you feel comfortable, having those conversations and sharing information.
Yeah, that reminds me, because I had asked Kevin, what are you getting from this, or what do you think it is all guys now. So what are all the other guys getting from this? And you mentioned, because this is like a singular job most of the time and you spend so much time alone that you actually gain some even just communication skills, like working with folks, and especially working in something you're not necessarily familiar with. There takes a certain amount of, I guess, I don't know. I like vulnerability, but it does, walking into something that, I know about switches, but this training thing, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Who wants to be a trainer or instructional designer? Nobody wants to be an instructional designer.
Nobody knows what an instructional
Nobody knows what
designer
it is
anyway.
What do those people do? Send them home. I don't know what they do. Kevin, one question that I always ask new subject matter experts is, what do you like to see from the other side of this, from the instructional design side, from the organizational side to make you feel like you made a really good decision to be part of this, even though you may not have made that decision. But this whole notion of, okay, I'm going to do this now. What are your expectations from the other side?
Um, Expectations. Well, I will say on behalf of Julie and Melissa, what I've experienced, and I've told Julie this analogy before, is it almost feels like having a coach in a way,
Hmm.
in a
Okay.
sense that, Michael Jordan, Kobe, whoever you want to name playing basketball, they're great basketball players, but Phil Jackson is a coach. He's the reason this works on the court.
Mhm.
And I explained to Julie that having the 10, 15, 20 guys in a room, we may know a bunch, but with no organization, we're just telling stories about stuff and just, shooting the breeze amongst each other. Having them actually structure it and keep us on task and keep the conversation flowing in a direction to actually, reach an end goal, that is what makes this go. And
Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah.
yeah,
So you want to feel like you're not just, wow, I don't know what I'm doing here. What am I supposed to say? What am I supposed to
right.
do? When you have a setup, a professional setup, when you have
Mhm.
people like Melissa and Julie and the other designers that I know work with you, I know those two professionally, and
Mhm.
they're both my students. So I know what tremendous designers they are. And in the back of their head, they always have a structure. They always have a strategy. They always find a way to bring the chaos into focus in the sense that we know exactly what we need to get done the next half hour, next half day, next three
Right.
days. I don't know how long your committee met, usually 3 or 4 days, I think.
Yeah.
And, I think that brings a level of comfort. And Julie, I mean, you are so good at this now. In the beginning, how did you feel about that relationship? Because I know when I first started working with subject matter experts, I always felt like I was out of my element. That I couldn't really compete with them because I didn't know what they did.
Right. Well, I mean, as you know, my first time facilitating something like that, I didn't even realize that's what I was doing. Just kind of like I don't even know what happened, if someone didn't show up or what happened. But like sometimes, and I don't know. Um, the guys have been really gracious about being patient and taking the time to explain things, which is so important, and not in a like condescending
Yeah.
mansplaining kind of way. You know what I mean? Like it's very like
Hmm.
again, I could count on one hand that sort of experience, out of
That's how it
hundreds.
happened. Yeah.
So it's but sometimes I guess I still get a little intimidated, and it's a brand new topic. And I haven't been thrown into a brand new topic recently, but I mean, you do what you can as far as even just like Wikipedia can be a good thing. So you can at least like talk the talk, and as you guys know, and I covered last time, I think like just exposing that you don't really know what you're doing. And it was neat when we were prepping for this, like just saying, you say you don't know what you're doing, but you really do, like, but I really don't, I mean, instructional design, I do, but like,
But I think that's the key to all this, right? We all have our roles to play. Okay,
right.
your role is the manager of the process to create the environment, to get the information you need, to turn it into courseware, to validate everything that you find, all the rest of it. Kevin's role is to provide the best content knowledge that's available out there, which he does. But he also adds the emotional support so that you don't feel like an idiot. But here's the things that I know because you're just like a student, Julie. You're
Mhm.
the person that's sitting in the classroom. If you don't understand it when you're working with subject matter experts, your students are never going to understand it when you turn it into a course. That relationship is not a 180. It's not just plain of, well, I don't understand, but I'm sure they will. No, it doesn't work that way.
Mhm.
And so your role is, I don't know, Kevin. It seems like it's more invisible. I mean, didn't you feel like Julie just knew what she was doing? Like she didn't have to explain what she was doing.
Right. I can remember being in there a couple different times. And so the way the setup was, there was a screen in front of us in the front of the room, and we can see what she's typing. And I recall a couple of different times seeing that as we're having this conversation between 4, 5, 7, 8 people, she is kind of just, taking what she's hearing and making something out of all of this and putting it on paper. And a couple different times may delete a bunch of it and then go back and change it.
Yeah.
And that's why I came up with the analogy I had, which was that, yeah, we're providing information, but she is the person who is putting this together.
Yeah. And I've seen her sit there silently and listen for a very long time. And I know Melissa does this too. Melissa listens a lot. Melissa is an introvert.
A process. Yeah.
And she is a big listener, and she will echo back things that she hears, but she'll just go like crazy, and then she'll erase things. And and I think that's the beauty of this relationship is there's no expectation that someone else is going to do something different than what you expect them to do. It's like there's no ego engagement here. There's no trying to outdo someone. There's no I know more than you kind of stuff. And I know especially in this subject matter group, I know in the groups that are with the center and have been in the past, they just are really there to do the job. I mean, I can't think, Julie, maybe I'm wrong, but I can't think of any time when I felt like there were too many egos in the room.
Just once I can. You weren't there. But they
I was
didn't
going to
stay
say, because
long.
I would
They
have
were
said
like, this is
something.
not my place. I'm not going to be back. And that's fine.
Sayonara. Yeah. Okay.
That's fine.
Keep in touch, but not too soon.
I can't imagine, and I can only speak for our guys here and for Norfolk Southern with the guys I dealt with there, but I don't really feel like the job of signal maintainer lends itself much to having a huge ego because of
That's
the fact,
interesting.
because of the fact that as soon as you think you know everything, here you are in 100-degree heat during the summertime, spending 5 hours trying to fix a crossing, and can't figure out what's wrong. So it has a way of humbling you when you think you know everything.
Yeah, I've definitely been there in my
Oh
trade.
yeah, that'll get you every time. That is for sure. Kevin, now working with the VTA, I'm curious about what they've done to help support your involvement as an SME. How have you advocated to decision makers at VTA that this is a good use of your time?
It was actually their idea. It was our previous manager's idea, George Sandoval. I don't think he was the one that decided that we join, but whoever was the decision maker on us joining, it was him who pushed for me to go. Because the person they had before me, they were going, but they felt like we weren't getting enough out of what we were bringing back. And the decision was made here recently as a part of the FRA rules saying that we have to have a training program that why not just use the consortium material for that?
Yep.
That was kind of the consensus we had at the consortium and the meeting in Buffalo as well, was that like we all have to have a training program, so why not structure it from this?
Exactly.
And whatever changes you need to make, okay, make them. But once that was kind of the route we were looking at going, it kind of just made it easy to see, okay, this is what we're using this for. This is the value. And so now, like we get on meetings now, when I got the new trainer for signals and the head of training, they're on the calls too. Now we recognize this is the direction we're going in. We got it.
So that's interesting. So not only is the consortium support you and encourage you, but they see the benefit of the participation. And many times in consortiums, that's kind of the hard case to make, is why they should be involved and what's the return on investment for them, not only financially, but organizationally. And I think if nothing else, just the fact that you go and represent the organization and represent it well, which you do. And now you have different ways to communicate within these consortiums. And I mean, to me, it's nothing but good stuff. And the more that they support, the more that they involved, and the number of most meetings that I've been in consortiums, everybody really wants to get something out of this. They want to prosper from this. They want to learn from this. And where they can maximize savings and benefit from the number of people that are involved and the professionalism of Julie in the center, and Melissa and everybody else. I mean, it just makes so much sense.
Yeah. I mean, like I don't know how long you've been working with them, Julie, but how long would you think it would take to create the entire signal side that you currently have? If you started today with nothing, how long would it take, or how long do you think it took to create all of that?
Oh, well, I could tell you that you mean the all the courses that we've developed so far.
Everything they have for signals from start to finish.
Oh, well, it took us, I mean, 7 years, but it was like the front load of it was like 3.5, 4, and it was so many. We had 4 or 5 instructional designers going at the same time.
So 4 or 5 instructional designers created that in 3 to 7 years. How would we have done that with no instructional designers inside the agency? Like it wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
And so it kind of was just a stroke of luck on their part. Whoever decided to sign up, like it was, it worked out for them.
And I'm really glad that they noticed, and I can't remember who was involved before you were, Kevin, but I'm glad that they noticed that they weren't reaping the full benefit, by that placement. I've definitely seen locations where there's just a disconnect, and it happens a lot between the folks that are involved and like the upper, management folks that are making the check writing decisions, but I'm glad that they gave that opportunity. And, there's something else I was going to say there with that. What was it? I can't remember. It'll come back to me.
The pressure's on.
The pressure's on. Well, one question I want to ask Kevin before we get out of here is, what advice would you have for someone who's being asked to be a subject matter expert and they're kind of sitting on the fence and not really sure if it's what they want to do, or they don't understand what it is, or what nuggets of advice would you have for that man or woman?
I would say mostly go into it with the expectation of you just being yourself and not thinking that they're looking for you to answer every question or be the answer to all their problems. Because I know we've all talked about it with Julie, the fact that the consortium material has a bunch of different pieces of equipment in it.
Yeah.
Each one of us works on different things where we came from. So there are things within the consortium material that I've never heard of.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes for every single guy who has walked in those rooms. There are things in this material that you do not understand and have not worked on. You may understand it in theory, but not to a T. So there's no need to be intimidated and feel like, well, I don't know what I have to offer. Like, there'll come a point when you can offer something. And so I think that would be what I would tell them.
Well, I can say, from having been involved in this at an earlier time in different ways and different projects and different fields, there's a lot of people that have no concept of how complex what they think are very simple things in their life are, and how much professionalism and knowledge and training and everything else goes into something that they look at every day and don't think anything about it. They're not systems analysts. They don't realize that this is connected to that, and if that doesn't work, this is never working. And all the things that you talked about, spending time trying to troubleshoot something that's right there in front of you. And anybody that's been a technician in any field can immediately say, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Remember that time?
Yeah.
And so if you're watching this and you've never been in a technical field, and you've never been lucky enough to be somebody like Kevin that has all this skill that he's willing to share, you need to understand the role of an instructional designer is to do the translation. We need to take this very complex information and we need to put it in order, make it simple to complex in terms of how we teach it, and then design a course around it. That's all. Simple, right? Nothing to it. And Kevin, I can't tell you how proud I am of you and the consortium and everybody that's working on this. And Julie, of course, you know how proud I am of you. Your picture is in the SME book. So you and Melissa both are in there, and some of our other folks. This to me is one of my professional points of honor, to be able to work with subject matter experts.
Agreed. I wouldn't have been around nearly as long if it wasn't for folks like Kevin, and I wish that, you guys had enough boxes on your screen to like bring everybody on, like I'm just so
Well, don't tempt
grateful
us.
for
How
all
many
that.
can we do, Denise?
10.
You're like
We do 10.
70.
Okay, so we can get, we got
Right.
room for 6 more. What do you think, Kevin?
But seriously, like,
That'll work.
Well, I think we ought to do it just to do it, don't you, Denise?
Sure. Let's test out
Yeah.
this system. And
Wait
see
till
how it
this is
works.
over. Denise is going to call me. What are you doing, Chuck? But I can't tell you how happy I am that you were joining us tonight, Kevin. I hope it wasn't too bad for you coming inside and being part of this. But sir, we really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. And Julie, by golly, I'd have you on here every week because you're one of my heroes. You really have taken this field and run with it. And thank you so much for that.
Yeah, we really appreciate you both being here. Thank you so much for everyone who tuned in or is tuning into the replay. Really appreciate your support. And, be sure to subscribe so that you can see other live shows. We go live most every Tuesday. We will be taking the month of July 2022 off whenever you're watching this. And we will be resuming first week of August. Thank you so much for everything.